Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Learning Webinar. My name is Chantel, and I'm going to be your host today as we look at various ways that you can import and export information out of Envisioneer. Following the broadcast, we are going to open up the chat panel where you can type in any questions that you have about importing and exporting, and I'll answer those for you. So anytime during the presentation, type in your questions, and as soon as I'm done the formal portion of the webinar, I'll go and look at your questions and I'll answer those for you. So let's get started and looking at various ways that you can import and export information in and out of Envisioneer. I'm going to start off by going to the File pull-down menu. And under the File pull-down menu, that's where you're going to see the import options listed. There's other ways we can import, and we'll look at them too, but we're going to start off by looking at these import options. When I'm beginning to start a project in Envisioneer, I can do that by just starting to draw, as you're aware, but I can also do it on the basis of tracing over something that already exists. So if you're going to be doing a renovation project and you have the existing home, you can import that in a number of different file formats. So you can import a PDF file, you can import a CAD file in DWG or DXF, and our project trace image file format is JPEG or bitmap. Each one of these three different methods will bring in a flat 2D plan. And from that, you can trace over top of it to begin your new project. The method for importing either by PDF, CAD file, or project trace image, the dialog box that appears, is the same in all three. So I'll go through importing a PDF file, knowing that if you're going to be importing a DWG or a DXF file, it's going to look the exact same. So I'll just click on Import a PDF file. When I do that, it will take me out to an open dialog box where I can source where I've saved that PDF on my hard drive. And I have one saved right on my desktop, and I click Open. Now, bringing in a PDF file, you may not have this capability in your version of Envisioneer. This is only available if you have Building Essentials or Construction Suite. If you have Pro Architect or Personal Architect, you won't see the ability to import a PDF file. This is an advanced feature that's only available in Building Essentials or Construction Suite. In the Import dialog box, there's a number of different controls on the left-hand side that will help you to bring in the most accurate PDF file you can. On the right-hand side, you get a preview of what that PDF is going to look like. It could be a multi-page PDF that you have to page through, and here you'll see how many pages are in that PDF document, and if it was more than one, you could rifle through those pages by hitting on these controls. Down below here, this is the most important area of bringing in a PDF. This deals with how big the PDF is, the angle of it, and the scale. So if I wanted to change the angle, I could type in a new angle. I'm going to type 270 there, and it will rotate the entire PDF. I want it to be in this landscape orientation, so I rotated it by 270 based on its original angle to bring it back in. If you're bringing in a PDF or a JPEG or a DWG, again, the dialog box is going to be the same, and it's slightly on an angle. Maybe they put it on a flatbed scanner and they scanned it and it's just slightly off. You can still straighten that out. That's what this little button right here is, Pick Angle. It allows you to pick 2 points and define the angle so that it will rotate it back down to that angle for you. So if you have the worst JPEG or bitmap brought in, scanned image you can think of, you can still straighten that out as much as you can using that Pick Angle button. Next, we have scale. What's the scale of this PDF that you're bringing in? And this is really important, because when you're bringing in a PDF like this one that has multiple drawings on it, all of those different drawings that are on that one page could all have different scales. And when it's bringing it in, it's reading the overall scale of the document itself. And it sees it right now as 1:48, which is 1/4 inch equals a foot. But what if the one drawing you brought in wasn't to that scale? Maybe it's at an 1/8 inch, maybe it's at a 1/2 inch. And you brought it in and traced the entire document and then realized, oh no, it's wrong. Your entire project started off incorrectly. So before you bring in any kind of file, double check that scale. To do that, I'm going to zoom in on some dimensions that appear. And when I do that, I'm going to bring up another point as well. I'm just going to zoom in on these dimensions. See how pixelated and fuzzy that is? The more I zoom in, the fuzzier it gets. There's two different types of PDFs that you can bring in. One that's going to look like this, pixelized. And that is what we call a raster PDF. That means someone took a picture and created it and converted it to a PDF. So the way your computer can handle that is making the image tiny little pixels of color. So the more you zoom in, the more you see those pixels. The more you zoom out, the better it looks. If I come down here in this lower left-hand corner of the dialog box where I'm moving my cursor right now, I'm going to uncheck Convert to Image. Basically, that's converting it to a raster image so it loads quickly. But if I uncheck that, and it was originally created from a CAD package, that means it's a vector PDF. And it recognizes that a line is a line and text is text. So the more that I zoom in, the better it's going to look. So always check too if your PDF might be a vector. Uncheck that. It will come up and give you a warning if it's not. If it is, you'll notice that it just gets a lot better. Looking, it's crisper, lines are lines, text are text. The other added benefit of having it as a vector PDF is that Envisioneer can snap to all of the snap points that were in the original CAD document before it was converted to a PDF. So it can, if you hover around a corner, it's going to snap to those corners for you. But now that I can see this dimension on my screen and I'm in that vector PDF, I'm going to come over here to the Pick Scale button. This allows me to pick 2 points. And when I pick those 2 points, I can type in the dimension between those 2 points. And it will calibrate the entire document based on that dimension I put in. So it's going to put it to the correct scale. So I'm going to pick on that button, and then with my cursor, I'm just going to come to 1 point. See how my cursor changes to a circle with an X? It's snapping to that corner. Left click. I move over to this other point on the other side of that dimension. Left click again. I've defined the 2 points between that blue line. And now it's asking me, well, what is the distance between those 2 points that I defined? I'm going to type in 10 feet. And then I click OK. If this scale over here to the left under my scale X had changed, then would have recognized that that was originally not in a 1:48 dimension like the entire document. It's maybe a lower or higher value. But it's remained at 1:48, which means it's 1/4 inch equals a foot. But that value will change if it has to recalibrate the entire document to the new scale. I'm going to come down here to the very bottom and hit Zoom Previous to bring myself back out where I was. So to go over that again, I used the Zoom Window button to zoom in on that area, and I picked on this Pick Scale button to just double check that scale. Very important. You don't want to bring in a PDF or a DWG or a bitmap at the wrong scale and base your entire drawing on it. So always double check, just to make sure that there's not a double scale on the document you're bringing in. Below that, we have Crop Box, and the Set button, when I hover out over it, turns blue, meaning I can set a crop box. So I'm just going to click on that and then move my cursor out onto the drawing screen area, and I'm going to left click, and as I move my cursor after that one single left click, a box develops as I move my cursor. This allows me to define an area that I want to bring in. Left click again. What's inside that blue box is going to be imported into my project. what's outside of that blue box is going to be deleted and gone. So this allows me to just bring in what I need and leave off any of the extra noise that I really don't need. The more you bring in, the larger the file sizes, and the more noise you're bringing in that you just might not need. So I cropped around the area, just that ground floor plan that I want to bring in as part of my document. Below that, we have another control called dimming. If I move this control over, it will change the dimming percentage. And as I move it over, you'll see that the drawing starts to get dimmer and dimmer. I want to bring it in so it's dim on my screen, and it's not going to be as vibrant as the drawing I'm going to create over top of it. So I'm going to bring that to about 60%. And then over here on the lower right-hand corner of my screen, we'll see the insert button. So I've brought in a PDF, I've rotated the angle, I've double-checked the scale, I've cropped around just what I need, I've dimmed it down, and I converted it to a vector PDF that allow me to snap to it and get the best visual on my screen. So I just hit insert. And a copy of that PDF attaches itself to my cursor, and now it's part of my project. How can I use that import? Well, it gives me a good base to trace over top of. So if I click on walls now, go over to my catalog panel, select a type of wall, and then I'm going to right click and say insert by baseline. I'm just going to zoom in here. See, as I move my cursor along that PDF, those blue dots appear. That's our snap tracking. It's recognizing that I'm hovering my cursor over a corner, and it's trying to snap to it to give me the best, most accurate corner start as I can. So I would just left click and start drawing, and then I can just pick on those corners that I brought in. So I'm just going to do that as quick as I can here, just to draw in from that PDF. Right click, tells that I'm finished, that I traced around the veneer, and if I pop that into a 3D view, you'll be able to see the model that I've generated from it. So bringing in a PDF allows you to quickly create something from the PDF original. So you can draw those walls in very quickly and use it as the basis of your design. So you don't have to redraw from scratch something that you might have already drawn or be bringing in as an as-built. So it's a quick way of creating that. I'm just going to bring this back into a 2D view. And here's our import PDF and drawing from that. If I come back up to the File pull-down menu and go to Import, so PDF, CAD file, and Project Trace Image all function the same way. So what I just covered with importing a PDF, know that these two are the same as well. Below that, we have a photo board insert. This is meant for bringing in a picture that you might want to include in your 3D views. So the upper three options, the PDF, CAD, and Project Trace Image, are meant for 2D views, so you can trace over top of it. Photo boards are meant for 3D views. I want to bring in a photo board of my clients, a picture of them that looks like maybe they're right in front of their home. Or I want to bring in an heirloom item that they have in their house that I also want to include in their new project. So I would use a photo board, just a picture that I can show in 3D. So I'm going to pick on Photo Board Wizard. It says welcome. This first screen is just meant as a welcome screen to tell you how it works. You can click next. And then you bring in an image and give it a name. So I'm going to bring in an image of a dog, and I'm going to select that image right off of my desktop. I'm bringing in a bitmap, but you can see down here, I can bring in bitmaps, GIFs, JPEGs, PNGs, and TIFFs. Depending on the type of file you have, you can bring in those different options. So I've got a bitmap of Charlie the dog. And I get to get a little preview of Charlie, and I can see how tall Charlie is and how wide he is. I'm going to make Charlie a little bit smaller here. I'm going to make him only 2 feet tall and still 3 feet wide. Click Next. When I bring in Charlie the dog, I can bring him in as two different options, stationary or billboard. So if I wanted to bring him in as stationary, that means I'm going to be able to see Charlie when I'm on a front-on view, and if I rotate around in my view, I no longer will be able to see Charlie. But if he's a billboard, that means as I rotate my view, the billboard's going to rotate with me. So Charlie the dog's always going to be looking at me no matter which way I rotate and look. So if you have something like that grandfather clock, you want to put him up against the wall so on a particular view you can see it, you would bring it in as stationary. But something like a dog or the people, you always want them to rotate so you can always see them as you rotate along the view. And I'll show you that when we bring Charlie in. Then I hit Next. And then we get to see an option here of how we're inserting the photo board. It'll give you a little bit of tips. If you want to change anything, you can hit back or we hit finish. And then I can just place Charlie the dog wherever I want to see him. So I'll put him right out front here. It's a multi-insert option. So if there's a couple of dogs, I can insert both of them. And when I'm done inserting all of the dogs, all of the photos, I can right-click and tell it that I'm finished. And then if I pop it into a 3D view, we can see Charlie the dog. So as I walk up here, there's Charlie. Watch as I rotate around. As I rotate around, see how that billboard moves? Charlie's always looking at me. He's always rotating, so I always get to see the front of Charlie. If he was a billboard, if he wasn't a billboard, if he was stationary, I'd only get to see him in this front-end view of how I inserted him. As I rotated, I wouldn't be able to see Charlie the dog any longer. If I double-click on Charlie the dog, it'll bring up its properties. So I'm going to change one of the dogs to be stationary, click OK, and the other to be billboard. So as I rotate, you can see that I'm not going to be able to, looks like the other one's going to rotate with me. It didn't take on my billboard option. It's got a little grayer there. You can rotate and see those billboard, and you can change their size and shape as you're going through as well. So that's bringing in a photo board meant for 3D views so that you can enhance that 3D visual, that experience, by putting something personalized into the view. We can also bring in 3D objects. So far we've dealt with 2D elements. We can also bring in a 3D element. So I'm going to hit Object Wizard here. And I'm going to bring in a table. And I'm just going to name it a table. And this option here allows me to categorize it. So I'll find it in the correct categories in my catalog if I do bring it into my catalog as well. So I'm going to say that this is interior furniture. It's called a table. And then I'm going to hit select. And then out on my desktop, I've got a SketchUp file. We can bring in 3D format, SketchUp files, DWG files, DXF files, 3D Studio files, and IFC files. You can bring them all in this exact same way. You just have to change this pull down to the type of file format when you're here. It'll default to SketchUp, but you can pull down there if you're trying to bring in one of those alternative file formats. So I've got my coffee table, and I click Open. This dialog box is going to pop up, and it's new in Envisioneer 14. It's meant to force the import of SketchUp files as a single-sided. Every material in SketchUp can have a double side. So that means that when I'm looking at this tabletop, the top and the underside of that tabletop face will have a material attached to it. With each face having double-sided and perhaps quadruple-sided, depending on how many faces there is, that really makes the file size very large, and you don't need it. You're only going to see that one face. So I'm going to force the import as a single-sided material. Say yes. And then it shows me the 3D block that I'm trying to bring in. And I click Next. Because anyone can create a block, and we don't necessarily know how they created it, that's why we give you this orientation view here on this next stage of the import. It allows us to move the object in different formats so that you can rotate it just in case when someone was creating it, they made it upside down or turned to the left or the right. So you can reorientate it to the orientation that you need. And then I click next. Again, because people can create multiple layers, if you will, and different materials, if you don't need them all, this gives you the ability to shut the eye and turn something on or off. And you can see as I'm turning things on and off, different things in my image are going to appear and disappear. So if there's something that you don't want to show, you can turn it off on the import. And then click next. Next, when we're bringing in this object, that last screen dealt with what it appears in 3D, and this screen deals of what it's going to look like in 2D. So in 2D, you can have the outline of the image, outlines down here, as what it's going to look like in 2D, or you can slice through the object, and this is a little bar. As I go through and move that slice up, you can see it's cutting through different things, so you can see exactly what that is going to look like at a different slice point. Okay, so I'm going to find the slice that works for me, and then I hit this plus button, and that adds this slice as the 2D image that is attached to this 3D block that I'm bringing in. So when I look at it in 2D, this is what it's going to look like. So you can create the 2D image when it's bringing in this 3D object. Click next and finish. And I'm going to bring that coffee table, I'll put it right in here in this living room. So if I look in a top-down view, and I'm just going to rotate myself around here, I can see that coffee table. And I'm just going to zoom right in on it. So there's my coffee table. That coffee table is now part of this drawing, this project only. If I want to use that coffee table in another project, I have to add it into my catalog. It's not brought into your catalog, only the project to begin with. If you want to save it to your catalog, you come up to File, Catalog, Save Element to Catalog. So that'll take what's part of this project only and allow me to save it to my catalog for future projects too. So I say Save Element to Catalog. You see my cursor changes. I put my cursor right on top of that table and I left click. And it comes up and says, are you sure you want to save table to the catalog? And I say, yes, I do. And it says, well, do you have anything else that you want to save that you've maybe imported and I can bring that in as well? I don't at this time, so I say no. And now it's saving my catalog. And you can see that it's already on the right-hand side in my catalog, moved me to interior furniture. And it's got a new folder where it's saving table for me. So I've brought in a SketchUp item, saved it to my project by bringing it in, and now I'm saving it to my catalog so I can use it in future projects as well. So what if I've saved this to my catalog and then a fellow employee, a friend of mine that's using Envisioneer also wants it as part of their catalog? Well, I could give them the SketchUp file and they could go through that whole process themselves, bringing it in and saving it to the catalog. But we also have another import feature called BIM to Catalog and BIM to Project. So I can export out that catalog to BIM. So I can take single elements from my catalog and save it with other people, or I can take my entire catalog and save it to someone else. So I'm going to say Catalog to BIM. That'll bring up my entire Envisioneer catalog, and then I can look through all of the elements that I have. So I'm going to look at interior furniture and go down to the very last one, this table. I only want to transfer this table. I'm only highlighted it on it. I hit transfer. And that only brings over my table. If I wanted to bring over an entire folder, I would hit storage as an example, and that will bring in all of these sub-elements. So when I hit transfer, under elements, interior furniture, I get all of the storage plus that table. So you can bring in an entire element and all of the sub-elements underneath it by highlighting it, type of element, or bring in a single element by just highlighting it. Once you're completed and have everything transferred over, click OK, and then it's going to create that element, and I'm going to call this one test. And click Save, and then it's done. It's created that. So I can have somebody else import that if they wanted to. If I come back to File and Import, underneath that we also have 2020 Design Import. So if you are using our construction suite, you will see that on your menu. If you're just using Building Essentials, Pro Architect, or Personal Architect, you won't see that as part of your menu options. It's only on the higher end versions that you see that. But I can BIM in something to my catalog. So now I've exported something, and I can also bring something in. So I can say BIM to catalog. And then out on my desktop, I'll see that new test one that I exported. And I also have this one called Custom Elements. I'm going to click Open on it. That'll bring in that same type of dialog box, but now I'm going the opposite way. I'm looking at my BIM file, which is on the right-hand side, and saying I want to import a rustic dining room set and transfer it over to my Envisioneer catalog. So it's saying, okay, I'm ready to transfer that over. I'm going ahead, I'm looking to see, does it already exist on my existing catalog? So right now it's just doing a little back check to say, do I exist or not? And if it does, it's not going to bring it in. And if it doesn't, it's going to start that Envisioneer process. So it's just looking through my catalog at this point to see if it can bring it in. When it's done, it's saying I've added the elements, and then I can go through under my Envisioneer catalog when it's done and look for that rustic dining room set, and it will be part of my catalog that I've imported. So if I look under interior furniture in the catalog and scanning for duplicates right now, looking for that dining room set, I'll be able to find it there. Once it's done, all of the status that it has to go through, looking for duplicates, adding things in, it'll then tell you that it's done. And when it's done, that's when you can click OK. And then part of the dining sets that I have here under dining room sets, I'll be able to see rustic dining set. And there's that rustic dining set that I can bring in and share from someone else's Envisioneer. Okay, back up to File, going to the Import menu. When I go back to Import, we've covered having the 2D views, 3D objects, BIM. We can also bring in IFC files. And when I import an IFC file in this manner, you saw IFC through Object Wizard. That's bringing in a single block to use, like a piece of furniture. If I say import IFC file here, it brings in and starts an entirely brand new project. And that entire brand new project could be walls and doors and windows, and Envisioneer will recognize them. So if you have an IFC file that's an entire house, bring it in this method, import IFC file. And when it's bringing it in this file format, this import method, it's going to look to see, is that a wall? Is that a window? Is that a door? So it can convert them into something that Envisioneer will recognize and can use. So you can bring in an IFC file that's a house that has a wall, and then you can attribute our wall properties to it, like framing and all the materials and the assemblies for material takeoffs as well. So that's bringing in different file formats. And we talked about bringing it in for the catalog as well. When I export it out, I have just as many export options. I could bring out a 2D image. So what's on my screen right now, I could save as a JPEG or a bitmap. Remembering when you're saving it as an image, it's going to be saving itself as a pixelated image. So the more you zoom in, the worse it's going to look. So when we're in this type of image, it would be something that you just want to do a quick print of as a 2D image to share with someone. If I save it as a 2D drawing, I'm going to save that again out to my desktop. I'm going to be saving it as a DWG or a DXF file, and I'll call this test. So I just want to share my 2D file format that I have here with someone that uses AutoCAD so that they can open it up as well. If I wanted to send out the entire 3D model, the 3D model can be saved in a number of different formats. DWG, DXF, 3D Studio, Vermal, which is an online navigation. Atlantis, Lightscape are both rendering software. SketchUp file format, so you can bring it back into SketchUp as a 3D model, or an IFC file if you're going to be sharing it with someone else that can import an IFC file. So depending on who the audience is, who you're sharing this file with, there's a number of different file formats that you can export from. Talk to whoever you're going to be sharing it with. Give them this list of export options so they can tell you what's best for them. So if they're using AutoCAD, they want to bring in that 3D model in AutoCAD format, send it out as a DWG or any one of these different file formats. So I'll call this again test 3D and hit save, and that'll save this as a 3D model that I can bring into AutoCAD. Back up to file, back to export. We talked about the catalog. We've imported and exported it from there so that if I need to share items that I've created that are custom to me, that I want to share with somebody else in my office or a friend that's using Envisioneer, I can take it out of my catalog and share it using that BIM file format. Up on the Envisioneer website, if you go to www.cadsoft.com, if you scroll to the bottom of the screen, you'll also, on that homepage, see BIM catalogs. Up on our website, we share BIM catalogs with you. So as we create new catalog content, you'll find it here so that you can download that BIM file and import it into your catalog. So if there's a manufacturer that you see up here or something that we've created, you can import these elements into your catalog so that you can use them. Okay, so take a look up there. We add to that on a monthly basis so that you can import new content into your catalog. The other elements that you see, export opportunities that you see here, are going to be for Construction Suite only. So these are advanced export options to Weyerhaeuser, CSD, MyTech, Boise, Keymark, and Simpson. So if you're using any of these, MyTech for your trusses, Weyerhaeuser maybe for your floor joists, you can export the entire 3D model from Envisioneer and open up that 3D model in any one of those different file formats, software, and they'll be able to open up that 3D model and analyze it and do the trusses and do the floor joists for you. So that saves them from having to redraw it. So any one of these, 2020, Simpson, all of those. The last one here, Sketchfab export, will take the 3D model and save it in a file format that Sketchfab can read. Sketchfab, and it's sketchfab.com, is an online 3D model viewer. So your 3D models can be published up on Sketchfab so people can walk around and navigate your 3D model without any other software required. They can do it right from the Sketchfab website. You can make your models private. I believe that involves a Sketchfab membership, or they can be open so anyone can see them up on sketchfab.com. So take a look at sketchfab.com and use this export if you want to publish a model that you've created in Envisioneer so someone can navigate around and walk through it. So it's a great way to share your work. Also, ability to share and import and export can be found under our Tools pull-down menu. Under the Tools pull-down menu, you can analyze the model, and you can create area perimeter calculations, and those can be printed. So if you want to print those out, you can send those out. You can also analyze the model and generate a project estimate based on what you've drawn. And if I click on this formatting, you'll see a number of different formats. And this is in our Building Essentials and Construction Suite software. So if I wanted to send it off to Excel and export that data out to Excel, I'd choose Excel, hit Save and Close, and it would go out to Excel. Pick another one. I want to go out to Builder Trend, put it in Builder Trend format, Save and Close, and it puts it in a format that Builder Trend can import. Now, that's always based on when you're dealing with specialized software like Builder Trend, it has a link. We've got it in the right formatting, but if you've got Builder Trend, you've got specialized accounting codes, and you've got to make sure that those accounting codes match up with your Envisioneer accounting codes. So something like that, make sure that your accounting codes match before you try that import-export. Okay, so even your estimates can be exported out and shared in different formats. Analyzing the model, we can also send it out to ResCheck. ResCheck is an energy software put together by the US government. So if you have the ResCheck software, you can export out from Envisioneer, and every wall, door, window, ceiling, floor has both R values and U values depending on the type of element. It will attach all of that information and send it out to ResCheck. So you can open up ResCheck and import it back in. Great way to save yourself from a lot of work of having to hand key that information in. Just export it out. Okay. I'm going to go now to the bottom of my screen. We've been working in the model view export, so how I can export my 3D model in different formats. But if I come here to one floor plan, this extra tab down here, that takes us to the worksheet view of Envisioneer, where now I'm strictly working in a 2D view, and I'm publishing out 2D visuals of my 3D model. And from here, I have import and export capabilities. I can import a PDF file. Maybe I have a PDF of a detail I want to bring in, or bring in a CAD file. Maybe I have a DWG detail again. So if I click on import a CAD file, it'll bring me back out to that open dialog box where I can search my hard drive for DWG and DXF files. These 3 folders are part of Envisioneer. So I'm going to double click on one of them and bring in this Beam Pocket as an example. And this shows me a little preview of what that's going to look like. It's going to bring it in at 1/4 inch equals a foot because that's my current scale, but you can see that this one is 1/2 inch equals a foot. So I'm going to scale it up by 2. And then when I hit insert, it brings in that DWG file. So that DWG file that I found somewhere on the internet or that I created previously in AutoCAD is now part of my drawing set, my details, 2D. We also have the ability with that to be able to edit the definition of that block. So if I hit edit on that object properties like I did on the right-hand side over here, now every piece of text is a piece of text that I can edit. Every line, I can change its layer, its color, its line type, its line weight. I can just hit the delete key on the keyboard and it's gone. To seal this back up as a block, I simply hit the escape key on my keyboard. Now picking on it, on any element here, it's all one block again. So you can import DWG and DXF through the CAD files and then change them. You can also import an image, JPEGs, bitmaps. If you're creating a presentation plan and you want to bring in swatches of materials, you can bring in JPEGs and bitmaps of the stone texture, the brick texture, the paint colors that you want to bring in. Or if this is a renovation project, you can bring in an image of the before and put it beside the images you create in Envisioneer of the after. So you can put them side by side. So JPEGs and bitmaps can be brought in. And then I can also export it as a 2D drawing. So when I'm exporting it as a 2D drawing, I'm sharing that AutoCAD DWG or DXF file with someone. I'll put it back out on my desktop here where I've already got that test one here. And this is where I can say this is my floor plan. And that floor plan view will be saved in DWG format. So this one sheet of paper, now they can bring that into AutoCAD. So if they have to review it, add a stamp, do some work to it, they can bring it in and do any additional work that they need to as well. Lots and lots of different ways of bringing in and sharing your work. We've covered a number of them. I am recording today's class. So if you wanted to review any of those import-export features that I was speaking about and showing you, you can watch the video afterwards. If you go up to our website, www.cadsoft.com, and again, I'm going to scroll to the bottom of any page. What we have at the bottom of every page are quick links, and one of those is this Events and Training tab. When I go to that Events and Training page, that's where you can register for any one of our classes. So today's class that we're sitting in right now is up on our website, but also there is this little red button here to click for the webinar archive. That'll bring us to past presentations that have been done on a Tuesday class. So in there, you'll find a past presentation of today's class called Import and Export. I'll be updating that today to have today's class in it, and then you can click on it. But if you look in the lower left-hand corner of my screen right now, you can see that it's linking to a YouTube video. So all of these link to a YouTube page that has a past presentation on it. So you can watch all of those. So in recap, you can watch the video of all of the different ways that we talked about today of importing and exporting it out of Envisioneer. I'm going to go to the GoToMeeting console right now to look at any questions that you might have asked during our presentation. If you have a question or you want me to review one of the import or one of the export options, please type your question in now and I can review that. It's a great way to have your questions answered live during this webcast. If a question does come up after today's class and after reviewing the video you didn't find that answer, you can always contact our technical support center either through our website in our live chat or through sending them an email at support@cadsoft.com, and they'll be able to answer your questions as well. So let me take a look at any questions that might have been posted already. Okay, there doesn't look like there are any questions so far, so I'm going to hold the line for 1 minute just in case someone is typing up a question at this point. But if there aren't going to be any further questions, I will end off the class and I will send you out a email that has a printed document about everything that we covered in today's class. And it'll also have a link to our archive as well, so you have a quick way of getting back to it. Okay, doesn't look like there's going to be any questions today, so I hope that meant that everybody understood everything that we covered in today's class. Again, if you do have any follow-up questions, never hesitate to reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. I hope you have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.